All right, so this next step is going to be setting up our laser cutting files for our final Bristol model. I know there were some conversations about using different materials for this final model, but I think it might be best for everyone to just do the Bristol models. You already have experience with the laser cutter and working with Bristol paper. So yeah, this is going to work out for us. So first thing you need to do is go to your very large file of your final design. So your final design, and you're just getting the curves from it. All right. So if these are my final curves, right now you can see that these are actually um, the 40-foot long sizes. And I'm just going to export these, file export selected, and this is, I'm going to name it P2, store Bristol and roll. Yep. And I'm going to open that file. All right. So again, these are the large scale ones. So we're going to do simple scale to bring it down to 5 inches. So select everything, deselect that 5-inch line, scale. Make sure your O snaps are on so you can see start point and your end point reference and your scale snaps. All right. That straight line over there, I could delete. And it's already flat against the grid, which is great. And I'm just going to move it into the top corner. All right. So what we're basically going to do is extrude these curves, and it's going to be a non-solid. It's only going to be the outer face, just like you saw in the diagram that the course coordinator prepared. And so we're making hollow interiors, and it's basically just creating ribbon bands. All right, so let's duplicate this first, and we'll explode it. We'll get rid of these boundaries. Oh, I have to ungroup first. All right, we're going to get rid of these boundaries. So select objects and delete. Actually, I want to keep the top ones, so I'm going to deselect those and then delete. Okay, so in total, I have all of these lines. I'm going to join them. So now there are 15 closed curves, so I know that I'm only making 15 objects. And I'm going to extrude curve 1 inch. I'm going to make sure that it is not a solid. All right. So I now have my extruded faces. And I also need to cut the front face and the rear face. All right. So I need both rows of these lines cut in the laser cutter. And then I need each of these unrolled. All right. Again, we see that this is not a solid object. It has to be hollow. And I'm going to set up a few rectangles so that I can cleanly lay it out. So I know that, phase one, phase two, phase three. All right. So one by one, I'm going to start unrolling surface. And I do not want to explode it. And press OK. All right. And so this is the first step of object one, of phase one. All right. Just right click on your mouse to repeat the previous step. All right, and then we know that we need both of these faces, so I'm going to copy these down. All right, and that's all I need for object one, for face one. All right, so we're going to do this 5 times. Okay. All right. Sorry for the dead air. I'm just getting this done. It's pretty repetitive. You all, I believe, are super familiar with this procedure at this time. Some strips are longer than others. If it can't fit on your Bristol board sheet, you'll just trim it, and that's totally fine. Just try to make sure you have all the parts and pieces. All right, and then once we're done, we'll just bring this into the laser template. I just wanted to work in a different file, so that you all can give your little laptops a break, with the heavy file. All right. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Grab this last set. All right, so now I know that everything here is what I need to orientate or, organize in the template. All right, I just like to keep my drawings a little bit on the cleaner side. Not crazy, but in sections so that if I have to get something from it later, I'll know where to find it. So that's why I make boxes and frames and things like that. Just because I've been there. I've lost so much stuff just because I wasn't organized. Um, and I don't want you all to suffer the same way. All right, so I have my 5 sections. And now I'm going to go back to the download website. Uh, Fab Lab. All right, and we're going to get the laser cutting template. We want the Rhino one. All right, so that's downloaded. Um, just double check the size of your Bristol board. I believe everyone should have I believe everyone has the 18 by 24 now. So let me just make a new guide layer. And I'm going to make sure that I have everything I need. So 24, 18. All right. So each of my layouts should fit here. And one by one, I'm just going to start copying. I would love it if you will keep your, keep your zones. I would recommend, just because I know some of you struggled, for the more complicated shapes, I would add a little rectangle um, next to your tab just so that it could fold. So let me turn off this grid snap. All right, if I just put a tab here, just put them, scatter them around a bit. And then you could just fold those lines later. It might help. All right, so your choice. You would just have to make the line in between them a score or a fold. And that's just if you wanted to be a little bit more precise. All right, for some reason these don't really look straight, but yep, they're straight. Okay, so let me just copy this whole. Actually, no, I'll do the make 2D here. That probably makes more sense. So just select all of the unrolled surfaces. We'll just do one sweep. All right, I'm going to do that again. And I don't want to see hidden lines. Oh, sugar. All right, so just turn off hidden lines. Great. Another thing that I forgot to do that you now will not forget to do is explode. And now we can make 2D. All right, now that looks a lot more appropriate. All right, so I'm going to copy all of these. Into the laser file. All right, so I know these are all together. So if I could, I would like to fit as many of those on here as possible. As I mentioned in the previous project, offsetting this would be very wise. At least a 1/4 inch, just in case, the laser is not perfectly aligned. All right, so that's face number 1. I'm gonna change this all to cut for right now. And then all of the interior lines, I'm just going to draw a window around. Oh, let me explode this again. Right. Again, grab all of your interior lines. Those are all going to be scored. Right click the layer that we're changing it to, change object layer. One more. All right. Great. So now we have all 5 sections. All right. You can lay this out however you think is best. Just try to give a little bit of breathing room and make sure that you're able to identify each of the pieces. All right. So if you needed to draw a line that you wanted the laser cutter to produce for you, so that you don't mix anything up, you can do that and change it to etch. All right. And that'll separate each of the patterns. All right, so let's continue. Obviously your design is going to be different from mine. Um, so just try your best when you're working on this at home. Since again, we're not meeting on Tuesday, since it's a Monday schedule. Let's see, does that work? Nope, it does not. See, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to get things to, Tetris into place. Actually, I have a lot of negative space here, so I'm really not too concerned. Um, but that's fine. All right, so now we know that this whole section is for phase number 2. Select object, change object layer, and then we'll get the rest done. All right, these two might be able to go a little bit closer. All right, and I don't think I'm going to be able to fit that large object. So what might need to be done is break it apart. All right, I'm just giving some ample space, making sure that I break everything at a seam and not in the middle. Right. Just copying around. All right, this one's actually getting a little bit more complicated, so I'm going to start over and I'm going to move this strip to a new sheet of 24 by 24. This way I only have one cut. I just be strategic where you put your cuts. Okay. And just because I moved those objects here, I think I'm just going to move back the elevation. All right. And when you glue it together, just remember which piece it is. And I'm going to move, like I said, I'm going to move these back over. Careful not to touch any curves we're not supposed to. All right, I do think that this was the better approach. All right, so we know that part is edge. Still not cutting it. All right, and we'll just turn that corner. I'm just trying to make it a pretty clean strategy. All right, it looks like we should be able to get it all done with just 2 pages, huh? You're dragging the curves, make sure that if they're not joined, you just, be careful when you move things. You don't want it to end up somewhere else, and then be confused about which lines are important and which lines are not important. Right, so yep, it looks like we should be able to get it all done in just 2 pages. If you are having trouble with that, let me know. Otherwise, all you need to do is make sure that these extra trace curves, select object layers, that you're going to move to the outer cuts, right? And then, you could get a little extra and just join all of the cut lines, right? Just so that it doesn't show up. Just do a fail safe test to select dupes, right? No duplicates found. All right, so yeah, you would now be ready for your laser cutting appointment. Okay. Yeah, just send an email if you have any trouble. Thank you.